Welcome to vlog 13, how to produce a brilliant conference presentation. My name is Tara Brabazon, I'm the Dean of Graduate Research at Flinders University. And this presentation today comes via request from Michelle. Michelle is about to produce an outstanding conference presentation and she wanted some final tips and tricks from me how to make it even better. So Michelle, it's my absolute pleasure to do so. You know how much I believe in you and you know how much I believe in your research. So I hope something that I say today may be of great use to you and indeed to everybody watching this video, because my views on conferences are somewhat different. So I'm going to be overt, I'm going to be quite robust in my conversation today. So please feel free to disagree with me. The reason I present these views is so that you can work yourself out and work out your perspective. So I hope you enjoy it and I hope something I say today may be useful to you and to your career. But first we need to go to the shout outs. Fantastic people, particularly fantastic women that I was talking with through much of last week. I need to say hello to the two Claires, one Claire with an I, one Claire without an I. So lovely to talk to you last Friday on Skype. Lovely to discuss stuff with you. Also a big hello to Jess. Hi Jess, you are amazing. That entire email that you sent me, just about every sentence is going to become a new vlog, so you're amazing. And also to Erin. Erin, thank you so much for your time, for your energy, for your expertise, and also your insight in the nature of the doctoral journey. You're all very special and you're all very important. So let's get to what is a very important series of decisions about academic life, and that is about the conference. So what I'm going to cover in the blog today is the pre-conference preparation, the conference delivery itself, and also the post-conference publication. And all three variables are integral to your career. The reason I'm so staunch, I think, on conference presentations is, and I'm going to be really upfront from the start, I have not heard a good conference presentation in the last 20 years. That's how bad it's been. So what's happened? Well, I spent a lot of the last 20 years listening to really poor papers that have had too many PowerPoint slides and not enough original research. I've seen poor speakers who are wasting people's time because they have not put enough preparation into the development and the delivery of that presentation. So it's simply and frankly not worth the money and not worth the time to go there. Now, part of this is a disciplinary problem, I think. For those of us who work in interdisciplinary areas, when we go to association conferences, so communication association, biology association conferences, most of the research is pretty basic, pretty generalized, and pretty vague. It doesn't really connect at all with the scholarship that we are enacting. The best ones, I think, are often based around a topic, an idea, an event, or an anniversary. And that type of focus brings interdisciplinary scholars together in a really interesting way. The best presentation, the best conference, in fact, I ever went to was at the Manchester Institute for Popular Culture, the MIPC, now closed, at Manchester Metropolitan University. And a big shout out to my wonderful friend, Professor Justin O'Connor. And Justin based this conference around the Smiths. Yes, the band. So all these remarkable scholars came from around the world for a 2-day conference on the Smiths and developed original research, everyone pushing each other to produce their best work. And every single person that delivered at that conference produced an outstanding refereed article that all of them have been very highly cited. So really great conferences that are based around a quirky event or an idea and are interdisciplinary can really transform a field. But I think too many academics to this day use conferences as a jolly, a free trip involving a little bit too much socialising and not enough thinking. Networking, I think, is a word that covers a myriad of sins. And as we've talked about in a lot of these vlogs, digitisation is transforming what is networking. So conferences particularly seem a bit of a throwback to the networking of the 1980 excesses. So the first bit of advice I'd always offer you is be dispassionate. and ask really, really, really if you should be attending a conference or you should be particularly attending this conference. Ask if it is worth your time. Remember, these are still the days where conference organisers are desperate for delegates. They pretend it's sort of selective, but actually we all know that they need the delegates and those really high registrations to pay their bills. So think about the flights, think about the accommodation, the money and the time you're going to be spending. And do ask yourself, am I better to spend that time reading a book or finishing off an article? This is important advice, I think, to remember, because it is important that you know that most presentations delivered by PhD students at conferences attract about 5 or 6 people in the audience. So you're spending all this time and money and you may get 5 or 6. Look, you might get 30, but you're doing all that distance and all that time for 30 people. So, okay, they're the caveats. You've decided to go to the conference. That's great. How do we make it the best experience for you? Firstly, really important one, don't be lazy. Don't present a presentation that you've presented somewhere else before. There are so many academics out there that keep on delivering the same presentation over and over and over again. Please, 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 don't be one of their number. Instead, force yourself at every conference that you go to and you deliver a paper, make it a different paper. Because what that does is it gives you an enforced deadline to create new research, which will also create a new publication for you. Yeah, more of that later. So what we need to do now is prepare your area of interest and research in a way that's going to attract an audience to your work, to get it over 5 or 6 people. So people will come to your presentation if you come up with a really amazing title and a really quirky and interesting abstract. So what I'd advise you to do is have a really powerful and unusual main title. So really something powerful, edgy, quirky, really get people going and interested. And then the subtitle, make that more descriptive of what you are actually talking about. In the abstract, focus more on why the paper matters, why the research matters, rather than what you're going to talk about. And if you get that abstract right, if you get the title right, then you've probably earned yourself a bigger audience. So do bear those characteristics in mind. So now we're going to write the paper itself. Do not confuse the writing of PowerPoint slides with the writing of a paper. Remember, I haven't seen a good conference presentation in 20 years. And the reason is, I think, is I've seen a bunch of people develop some PowerPoint slides and then simply dribble over what they see when they look at the PowerPoint slide. So up comes a PowerPoint slide and then they speak to that. They haven't written a paper, they've written PowerPoint slides. They are different things. The old rule of public speaking, I think, really does count here. Write your speech first and then construct your visual aids. Look at the phrase, visual aids. It aids the verbal delivery. It's not the other way around. So write your conference presentation first and then pinch, if you like, some tricks from journalism. So in your first paragraph, the first statement that you make in the conference presentation, tell a story. Michelle, this could be quite important for you. Pluck a really interesting area, vibe, narrative story from your research and tell the tale in the first paragraph. Then the second paragraph, explain why your research matters, why the people in the audience should care. And from those first 2 paragraphs, then start to explore the evidence, the methods, the strategies of your research, the wider portfolio of your expertise. But get the sharp and interesting introduction in first. Now, most conference presentations these days limit the time to 15, 20 or 25 minutes. That's between about 3,000 and 4,000 words, or between 8 and 10 pages. So when you've written 10 pages, I want you to stop and time it. It's always much easier to cut the length of a presentation at this early point than keep it going, and then suddenly on the morning of the presentation you realise you're 3 minutes too long, okay? So at the start of the writing, cut it to time. Also focus on getting one big idea across. That's really important. So one big idea that you convey through the 15 minutes. Also remember that writing for public delivery is very different from writing for the page or writing for the screen. You're going to have to give oral cues, like the presentation that I'm enacting with you today has 3 parts, or I want to test one key theory today. You're going to speak your transitions between your ideas. Timing is incredibly important. Remember, focus on it being under time, not over time. Give yourself 2 minutes under the required time. I want you to deliver the entire presentation with confidence, and that means you need to know precisely how long that presentation is going to take. So when I'm delivering a keynote address, people say, "Oh, Tara, you've got 30 minutes for the presentation. Do you know how long it is?" And I say, yes, my presentation is 27.5 minutes long. And then they time it and they go, my goodness, your presentation was 27.5 minutes long. So get it absolutely precise with time. And only at that point do you move to the PowerPoint or to the Prezi. Abide by the first rule of public speaking. Never state verbally what is on a slide. If it's written on a slide, do not speak the words. The best PowerPoint presentations have no words at all. They're simply a visual wash behind the speaker to provide that visual interest. Another way to use PowerPoint that I use quite frequently is I use them as my footnotes, if you like. So if I'm talking about a scholar, I put a quote from that scholar on a PowerPoint slide that I do not read. So in some ways, I'm almost using the PowerPoint as footnotes for what I am talking about. So it is significant to remember that a speech is visual communication, so make sure you use that visuality really well. And also use a lot of slides. People often say, oh, only use 2 or 3. Actually, the wash, the flow of visuality behind you adds increased interest. So never be frightened of having too many slides, just make them count. So we're now going to work on the visual bit, the sonic delivery of a presentation. Now, I take about 2 weeks to research a presentation. I take about 2 days to write a presentation, and every presentation takes 50 hours, yes, 50 hours to learn it. Remember, I learn these vlogs every week. Every single word that I'm saying right now is on these cards. And I spend the time learning this speech for you so that I don't waste your time. Your time is precious, and therefore I have a responsibility to give you a strong delivery. And just as when you go to a conference, you have a responsibility to enact a powerful delivery to the audience that has come to hear you. It's also important, do not lose eye contact. Don't read a paper, learn it. Keep the eye contact going. When you have that eye contact, you maintain an audience. When you look away from your audience and read a paper, you also lose your audience, don't you? So remember, it is always important to speak slowly. You cannot speak too slowly. You cannot speak too slowly. And remember to always use pause. Pause to good effect. Silence is incredibly powerful in every presentation. Also, for women and for men, focus on lowering your voice. Keep the delivery even, but also find ways to infuse and inflect emotion into your voice. Now, all that presentation is really important. We need to put that preparation for the presentation in place for a lot of reasons. One is, of course, reducing nerves. Whenever people do that ranking of what makes you most nervous in life, invariably the #1 draft pick on what makes you most nervous in life is public speaking, which I find really interesting. I'm never nervous when I speak in public, and I speak to tens of thousands of people, and I'm never nervous because I put in the heavy lifting of the preparation for that particular presentation. And because I put the preparation in, I know exactly what's going to happen. I know every possible contingency that can occur, every possible mistake, every possible error, and therefore I'm simply able to move through the presentation. So you will reduce the nerves by putting in the preparation. Focus on your voice, focus on slowing the delivery. Also stand up straight. It shows confidence, but it also allows you to speak more effectively because your body is aligned and you've got greater breath control. Also, don't worry about the question time. I know a lot of PhD students, a lot of academics more generally, really get themselves anxious about the 2 to 5 minutes of question time. Wow, I wonder why. And I think the reason is I think they're concerned they're going to be found out. But remember, you have control of the material. The chances are 99% of the time you will know the answer to the question. I promise you, you'll know the answer. But also the second variable I would say is if someone asks a really difficult question that you don't know the answer to, give the great answer, which is, thank you so much for that feedback. I hadn't thought through that issue before, and I will unfold that in my research. Thank you so much for your commentary. And therefore you've answered the really difficult question with ease, and we've all learnt something on the day. So don't be frightened of saying that. We all learn every day. That's why we're scholars. So just a quick checklist to remind you, go to the room 30 minutes before, check that the temperature of the room is good, check that you understand the technology works. Do not hesitate to call somebody into the room to help you manage the technology. It is your time. You deserve to be confident with the tech. Also, really think about and find out if you're going to use a microphone. I'm not a big fan of microphones. They're very difficult to manage in small spaces, but if they are asking you to use a microphone, trial it and test it before. And guys, as a hint, if this helps you to avoid the into the microphone, position it under where you would speak. So about an inch under where you would speak. So it wouldn't pick up the K, then put the microphone there. So it's 1 inch above it and you won't pop the microphone. Also be aware of clothing. So if you're a guy, that's great because you can put the microphone on your tie and put the power pack in a pocket. If you're a woman, do consider this. If you're in a nice dress with no pockets, they're going to have to put that microphone on somewhere. So think about that when you're dressing for the conference day. So you've done your presentation. You need to congratulate yourself because public speaking in all forms is incredibly difficult. So you've just done something really tough. And like I always say, we learn to write by writing. We learn to speak by speaking. So think about what you did well. Think about what you can improve next time. But the key is, I always say, be yourself and be your best self. Lots of people want people to behave in a particular way, speak in a particular way, look in a particular way. I don't want that for you. I want you to back yourself, and I want you to have the confidence to be your best and authentic self, not a clone of something random that you think you should be. Make a decision to be a strong and powerful academic communicator, and it will make a difference to your life. As we've talked about, so many consultancy opportunities emerge through these type of public speaking opportunities. So remember, be a great communicator rather than communicating via death, via PowerPoint. Meet people at the conference if you can. Use the time, go to as many presentations as you can. Focus on the learning rather than the drinking. It does matter. But your job does not stop here. And this is actually the most important piece of my vlog today. Now, engineering is really the only discipline at the moment where conference proceedings are seen to be okay in terms of quality. And a big hi to everyone at Tonsley. I hope you're fantastic. So for the men and the women in engineering, it is okay for you to leave your work in conference proceedings. I think we can do better, but the research shows your research is still cited from those proceedings. As most of you know, when I was in the UK, I held leadership posts in the RAE and the REF. And the reason that we got so many great responses and results from that RAE and the REF was I spent a lot of time and a lot of energy helping colleagues write one sentence, one paragraph, one paper at a time. So it was outstanding research, and then finding the best place for that research in a journal where it would be cited. And so because of that, we had really great outcomes. Yes, we have the ERA in Australia. I would argue it's probably not as good as either the RAE or the REF, but that's the system we're working in. But what both systems demonstrate, I would argue, is that conference proceedings do not manage this type of process well. So whether you're dealing with a peer review process for the ERA or a citation-based process for the ERA, neither of those responses work well with conference proceedings. They are seen to be of lower quality. So therefore, very quickly, you need to move from conference proceedings into higher order journals. Very important. So as quickly as possible after the conference, I want you to prepare it for publication for a refereed journal. Do not leave it on your hard drive. I want you to find an audience. Remember, you spoke at 10 people, 15 people, say you spoke to 100 people at that conference. The best of refereed articles have audiences in the thousands. And your research deserves an audience in the thousands. So within a week, and that's the deadline I give myself, within a week, draft that conference up into a refereed article. Take on the commentary and the questions and the critiques that were given to you at the conference. So use that feedback and then send it to a journal. The only way I can ever justify going to a conference, and these days I go to keynotes, but still, the only way I justify going to a conference is because I produce a refereed article. That's the only way I can justify the time and the money that's been spent. So this post-conference productivity in research matters more than the conference itself. The conference is analog. It's delivered only once. But your refereed scholarship is digital. It lives forever. So Michelle, I hope this short guide is helping you make sure that your presentation is the best that we can make it, because your research really is going to find a huge audience, I think. And the reason I'm so staunch about this presentation today, you can tell I do really care about it. I think so much money, so much time is wasted when there's so little money and little time in higher education, I think. But why I'm so staunch is I've seen so many academics treat conferences like it's a holiday. They write a talk, well, in effect, put together some PowerPoint slides the night before they're delivering, often in the bar of the hotel, laughing at people that this is how late they leave their conference presentation. Yeah, I've seen so many academics recycle the same talk over and over again. I've seen too many academics confuse the reading of PowerPoint slides with the writing of a conference presentation. And I've seen so many academics waste amazing research by just delivering a paper to 10 people and then never writing it up into a journal. So please don't be those people. You are our next generation of academics. You are so precious. I want for you intellectual generosity, academic rigor. I want creativity, precision and passion. That's what I want for you. And I want you to be outstanding communicators so that your research can always find its audience. Michelle, you are a great researcher, a great human being, and you are a fantastic communicator. Do let us all know how you go, and I absolutely believe in you. So I hope everybody out there has a wonderful week. As always, keep in touch. I love receiving your emails, love hearing what you think about the world, your research. I love to hear what you think about conferences, so do let me know. So I wish you love, light, and peace. Tea out.